Okay, in this video I want to talk about categorical propositions, eventually leading into categorical syllogisms. That'll be in a few videos coming up, but let's just discuss the nature of the categorical proposition. And I titled it up here, Names of Categorical Statements, and I think, I'm playing around with these words, because it's really a proposition. It's the same thing, but this sort of stuff can also fall under the title of propositional logic. And it would go under the title of formal logic, because we're really looking at the form of the propositions, not the content. It would also be known as Aristotelian logic. But propositions, that's how you refer to a statement. Now, a statement is going to be a subject and a predicate, not a question. It's going to be indicative. And it's going to have the quality of... well, actually, that's about as far as it goes, okay? Oh, well, let's continue on, because that's a little tricky to really delve into. It may merit a video on its own, but here we go. All right, we can get this down. Name of categorical propositions. I'm going to run through an example of a categorical proposition. Okay, dogs have tails. Now we can translate to that all dogs have tails. All dogs are things that have tails. Now, just the plural itself is a little confusing, because you have to kind of determine what exactly is being meant here. Is this like dogs as a quality of being a dog, they're going to have a tail? Okay. Or they're going to have something of a tail? Because I think perhaps you can breed the tail out of a dog. I'm not sure. But let's look at it this way. Children like lollipops. Okay. See the plural there? Children like... Now, we could transfer it down over here to... Now, I took tails here. There's a category here, right? Things that have tails. So I made it a category, things that have tails. So with the children one, we can say children are people that like lollipops. Okay, so now I got that liking lollipops thing into a category. I framed it as a category. But do I mean some children or all children, right? Because if I mean all children, that's not true. Although that we could work with that proposition logically. But or do I mean some children, meaning at least one, but the idea would be, in this case, a lot of them. But if I can find at least one child that doesn't like lollipops, I might not want to translate that sentence into all children like lollipops. But here we go, okay? Dogs have tails. We're pretty much safe going all dogs are things that have tails. Now, the way this would come down into form, and we just drop out the content, and we go all A are B. Now, the R is very... let's be really loose with this. We usually say is be, even though sometimes we mean plural, okay? And this, by the way, is called the copula. It's the equation sign or the relation verb that relates the two, okay? So the is the copula. And we would draw up the categories this way if you want. Category of dogs, category of things that have tails, and then we shade this out to say this is really closed off space, okay? There's nothing there. If you're going to put anything into that circle, it always has to be inside the circle of things that have tails. So this is the circle of the dogs, really. Okay. Now, there are some ways we can qualify this, right? A is B is a categorical proposition. But we can put qualifiers on it. Now, this is a universal qualifier. This is a particular qualifier. Now, in logic, some means at least one. Okay. We often think of it in terms of, like, more than one, but it means at least one, perhaps more. This is a universal qualifier because it's taking away everybody from the class. And then this is particular. And then you have is, and then we have not. So that's a qualifier too. Qualifier, adds nuance or changes the meaning a little bit. And this certainly, you added this word, it certainly changed the meaning from that. So this is a qualifier. And this is your negative qualifier, okay? So... if this is negative, then we would call this affirmative in its meaning. Okay, now, what we have here then is we have an affirmative universal. Okay, we call this a universal affirmative. By the way, I know I'm writing small here, so if you want to view this at a full screen, that's probably the best way to always handle these videos so that you can see what I'm writing more or less. That's a universal affirmative. Okay, this is a particular, right? We mean at least one, but it's certainly not universal. So we call this a particular affirmative. This is a negative. Here's the qualifier. Here's the qualifier. That's a negative. In fact, just right now, let me circle all the qualifiers. Some and not. Okay. So this is a universal negative. We know this. We call this type of proposition a universal negative. So we'll go universal negative, and then we call this a particular negative. Okay, now these, to make things a little more confusing, and actually it was meant to make it less confusing, because a lot of these are rules of thought, right? I mean, they will, your mind operates on these tracks. But there was a time in our Western history where people overprivileged this in the sense that they mixed up logic with truth. All right. Again, anything that is sound is going to be both true and logical, but that which is logical is not necessarily always true. It's valid, but not always true. So logic alone isn't enough to lead us into soundness, okay, to properly guide us in a pursuit of truth. So no, I mean, it can properly guide us, but it's not going to always lead us to that. So the point I'm trying to make is, there was a point when people really, it was the scholasticism of the late Middle Ages, or well, actually early Middle Ages too, Middle Ages, especially in Western Catholicism history, in which this sort of chopping got very, very complicated. And they would give all particular forms certain names. And we might, just for fun, look at some of the names. They named them after, I don't know why, but girls. So Barbara is a very familiar syllogism. I forget the other ones. And they weren't always all after girls. But anyway. Here they decided to say, look, you know what? Both of these affirm. Now in Latin it would be affirmo. Both of these involve the act of affirmo for someone. Affirmate. So they went, look, okay, affirmo, the A and the I. So this would be known as the A statement, and this would be known as the I statement. So an A statement, they took the first vowels. Actually, here, they took the A statement is a universal affirmative. The I statement is a particular affirmative. And then over here they go, both, what's involved here is the act of negare, negation. So nego. They went with the word nego, and they took the first two vowels. So they called this an E statement, and they call this an O statement. So an E statement is always a universal negative, and an O statement is always a particular negative statement. So A-I-E-O. And to help them remember that A's and I's are always affirming, they affirmo, and then E's and O's, they named it this way to remember, hey, E's and O's are always negation. It's a little confusing because we usually put A right here, right? And then we have an A running around here. So don't let that confuse you. An A statement, an I statement, an E statement, an O statement. This is what they mean. And it's crucial we remember these letters when we work with the square of opposition, which is what I want to discuss in another forthcoming video.